India has 28 states, but the way laws are actually made inside them isn't identical across the board. Look at this map of India. Only 6 specific states use a bicameral legislature, meaning they have a secondary upper house called the Legislative Council. Those states are Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Karnataka, Maharashtra, Uttar Pradesh, and Bihar. To get a sense of the scale of these institutions, look at the seat of power in Karnataka. That massive scale carries over to the legislative center of Uttar Pradesh, and it is the exact same story for the massive populations governed by this unique 2-tier system in Maharashtra and Bihar. If you live in one of these 6 states, or if you're preparing for a civil service exam, you need to understand this dual system so you know exactly who wields power over the state laws that affect you. First, you have the MLA, or Member of Legislative Assembly. This is the direct representative of the people, elected directly by the voting masses. Then you have the MLC, or Member of Legislative Council. They sit in that upper house and are tasked primarily with reviewing and debating laws. This brings up an obvious question. Why are some politicians elected by millions of everyday citizens, while others get a seat at the table through specialized, restricted nominations? We are going to strip away the usual political noise and look straight at the mechanics. We'll compare their exact powers, how they get their jobs, and what their legal limitations are. By mapping out their election inputs against what they are legally allowed to do, we can determine who actually holds the real power. Let's start with how they get the job. MLAs are chosen through direct public elections based on geographic constituencies, serving standard 5-year terms. Because millions of voters directly put them there, MLAs carry massive political weight. But that same direct link makes them highly vulnerable to short-term populist pressures. This flowchart illustrates the MLC's path to power through indirect elections. The voting base is divided by segment. Local body members, teachers, graduates, and MLAs elect specific fractions of the council. Finally, the state governor nominates the remaining fraction based on their expertise. This method guarantees that specialized educators and experts have a seat in government. The cost of that expertise is direct public accountability. MLAs represent the geographic masses. MLCs ensure specialized segments of society get a dedicated voice. Once they're in office, their powers diverge sharply. MLAs sit in the assembly, introduce major bills, and hold the final say over the state budget. If a single political party holds a massive majority there, they can push flawed or rushed bills into law very quickly. This diagram shows the MLC's primary function: review power. They scrutinize assembly bills, ask questions, and suggest amendments in a cooling-off phase. That delay catches legal loopholes before a bill impacts millions. However, MLCs completely lack veto power over standard legislation. If the assembly rejects the council's suggested changes, the assembly's original version becomes law anyway. MLAs possess the hard power to force laws through, while MLCs provide the friction required to refine them. Time is the final major difference. An MLA's 5-year term can end abruptly. If a state government collapses, the entire assembly is dissolved. This timeline compares that to the MLC schedule, which operates on a continuous 6-year staggered term. Exactly 1/3 of the MLCs retire every 2 years. Because of this rotation, the Legislative Council is never fully dissolved. It preserves unbroken institutional memory, even when political crises fracture the assembly. The trade-off for this stability is that the council's political makeup often lags behind public sentiment, since members aren't swept out during a single election wave. The assembly acts as a volatile snapshot of the current public mood, while the council acts as a stabilizing bridge across changing governments. Looking at this scorecard, state legislatures operate like a heavy vehicle. MLAs serve as the engine, providing raw political power and momentum. MLCs act as brakes and steering, offering expert review and ensuring the vehicle doesn't speed off a cliff. Neither part can safely operate the vehicle alone. You need both the rapid momentum and the careful friction. If you are an exam aspirant, memorize the MLC's strict limitations. They have a 6-year staggered term, 5 indirect electoral categories, and their powers are strictly advisory with no absolute veto. For engaged voters, if you are a registered graduate or teacher, you possess a dedicated pathway to shape this upper house. Your influence extends beyond just voting for your local MLA. Ultimately, do not dismiss MLCs just because they lack a veto. In a functioning democracy, the institutional power to question, review, and delay is just as vital as the power to